open session, and the time is 10:35, 901 Leopard, County Courthouse, 3rd floor. Calling our special meeting to order at, I don't have any, 10:38. Yep. Okay. It is a complete special meeting, so if we could rise, please, to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Judge Jack, would you, Commissioner, would you lead us? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
What's that? That was pretty good. You did good. Shoot.
Sorry I took B out of A on the roll there,
Oh,
but that's fine. Would anyone like to lead us in a prayer?
I'm sure. I'm happy to
I would appreciate that.
stand or, yeah.
Either here or, okay. Please bow your heads.
Please join me in prayer. Dear Lord, thank you so much for all that you've given us and all that you have done for us. Thank you, Lord, for bringing us all together here and help us to continue to do as we always try to do, which is certainly glorify your name, but also to do what is best for all of those that we serve. We thank you for all of these public servants and elected officials and staff, and we ask you to continue to bless them and continue to bless this court. In Jesus' name we ask these things in prayer. Amen.
Thank you, Lord.
Bailiff, do we have any public comment? Anybody signed up for public comment? I don't even know if there was a sheet. Okay, I'm guessing there's not. Tyner? Nothing, correct? Okay. And so we have a regular agenda to review. Item number 1 is the proposal to review legislative consultant candidate proposals, and specifically those candidates identified on the Commissioners Court provided list. And then the second thing would be to discuss and consider making a recommendation to Commissioners Court regarding the selection of legislative consultant candidates. And at this time,
County Attorney.
okay, we'll just,
Big five.
we'll hold.
Right? Don't we have to have her?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay.
My bad. I take it
I don't
back.
think we have.
Okay, all right. Okay, in that case, I want to review where we are on this matter, which is that earlier this morning, we had a selection committee here in this room. Tyner was present, Lauda was present, myself and Commissioner Chesney. You'll recall this Commissioners Court appointed that committee, and we had the opportunity to basically review the 19 as it was vetted down to about the top 4 selection from each of us. So that means each of you were asked to submit 4 names, actually 3, but some of it was 3, but guess what? Some put 4 in, but that's okay.
I want to know who did that.
Okay, well,
Took it back.
okay, so anyway, so we had those top 4, and good discussion led by Commissioner Chesney and I, was able to, we were able to go over all of the candidates, but, and we have a top list to present to you, and I'm going to ask Tyner, because he was with us, and he can read the top list, and,
Okay, as a result of the committee meeting, I guess there were 7 that actually had a pick by each commissioner, at least one pick. And the committee narrowed that selection down. I guess we didn't vote, but everybody was in agreement. And the committee narrowed it down to 3, which included Andrade, Van de Putte and Associates, and it also included Patricia Shipton and the third is Texana Public Affairs, a Joel Romo group. In your book, that would be selections
2,
2,
7,
7,
19.
19.
And 19.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. And at this time, I'm going to motion to table this entire issue for action at this time, and I would ask for a second, because a particular question has been raised as to a conflict. I take conflicts incredibly seriously. Our goal today, as per the agenda, was to consider making a recommendation. I do not think we can make that recommendation because of the conflict that has been raised. I need the county attorney to be able to, A, brief us on that, or B, discuss that matter with the particular entity, because we do not have any kind of information that would provide a sound decision with regards to that. And so at this time, I would entertain a second to my motion to table. I'm sorry, that might necessitate a call to have another special meeting, but it's just too important. And this is for a contract that would be contemplated for an entire year. It's also a contract that would require quite a bit of interpersonal time that this county judge and you as county commissioners would have with these individuals, and we have to make sure that we're making the absolute best decision. Having said that, I would like to make sure that we can discuss it.
I second the motion for discussion, yeah.
Okay, so having a motion and a second, I want to make sure that we can discuss it in its entirety. And so, so we have not wasted your time. I will let Commissioner Chesney, since you were part of this discussion, why don't you take Andrade, Van de Putte and Associates and bring forth some of the discussion that led to their selection in this final list.
Thank you, Judge. Just a point of clarification. I was always under the impression that if there was a motion to table in a second,
Yes.
that you weren't supposed to discuss what you're considering tabling, but I just want to make.
Well, the motion is to not take any, the table is to not take any action today on this issue.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if we can do that as far as,
Laura, I need a little help. Just want to make sure, maybe we just need to restate the motion, or?
Basically, you don't table right now, you just want to.
Okay, just discuss, and then we'll call for the table.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, backwards
No, no.
then.
Just want to make sure we're clear. So
Okay.
are you withdrawing
I withdraw my second to
Yeah.
discussion.
for now?
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I just want to make
Go
sure
ahead.
we do it right. And tell me what you want me to do now. I'm sorry.
I think, I don't want to waste anybody's time. I don't want to get into the issue that's been raised, but I want to discuss what the four candidates that we vetted to this final round, I'm sorry, three, I'm back on that four, sorry, the three final candidates, so that we can provide the background that the selection committee had the opportunity to discuss this morning. And just, the high points.
So can we just, while we're here, can we just have the other commissioners also weigh in on these three and then table it, and inclusive of if someone wants to bring up that issue? You caught me off guard, so I'm trying to figure out where we're going. So is there any reason why we?
Yeah, I would like to be able, I've been reading the agenda very carefully here, and the agenda has no call for action. It has a call for reviewing the proposals, which I would like to do right now, which is really what we've done at the selection committee, and then discuss and consider making the recommendation. And that's what I want to table. I
Well,
want to table making the recommendation today.
I'm okay with that.
I'd just like to know, what is the conflict here? I mean, I need to know, so I know, I can discuss it and say, well, that's a,
The agenda item does allow you to make a selection.
Do you have the right agenda, Judge?
Okay,
You may be looking at the committee one.
maybe so. Let me have the regular one.
Yeah, right.
Well, regardless, whether or not we have the right to do it or not, I still have the right to table it based on this new information that really just came to light in the last 30 minutes. And I want to make certain that everybody has the right information. It would be fundamentally wrong to base your decision on something that has no evidentiary basis at all.
I agree with that, but I just don't know what the.
Oh, no, I agree. And we
Is it
can,
okay if he just wants to know what?
yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm going to lead the discussion then. I'll take over.
That'd be great.
All right, so there were 19 proposals. Out of the 19, we have narrowed them down to this meeting to 3. And I'll start with Andrade Van de Putte and Associates, referred to attachment number 7. Let me also direct you to the fact that price is not a ultimate factor, but some of your proposals have price and some do not. Let that not be the ultimate decider as per the advice of council here today. But it is a factor, but not a deciding. Andrade, you might remember, is our former Secretary of State, Hope Andrade. Van de Putte is the former Senator from San Antonio, Leticia Van de Putte. They're also joined in their firm by Representative Jim Keffer, who was Chair of Natural Resources, I believe, and Energy. It's a strong team. They hail from San Antonio. They do not have a local component. They are very well known and have a strong list of clientele. If there's any particular questions about this particular firm, be happy to make those discussions now. I do. Yeah. Well, yeah, to me it says consider making a recommendation. I mean, you can certainly consider it.
How many of the commissioners put this name on the list? Y'all remember? I think that matters. It does to me. 3?
Well, I've got it right here. I will tell you that it might, but had we made that an opportunity, to me it was 3 top selections. If I knew that we were going to be taking a rubric vote, then I would have put 1 selection and that would have skewed everything, because that's really was not the intention. It was the intention to bring up 3 really top candidates. But to answer your question, 3 is the answer.
Okay.
And Shipton was 4, and the third one that we're going to discuss here, Texana, was 2. But again, having said that, it's not meant to have been a straw poll or a vote or anything like that. It was meant to bring forth. In fact, most of us did 3 candidates, but those that did 4 skew that. So
Judge, that's not true. I took back the 4,
Take mine off too.
and that unskewed it, so it did not skew the top 3. Because I took off my 4th, which took off the 1 extra vote for McWilliams, because McWilliams got 2, so that took McWilliams down to 1, and that was...
That's correct.
So that did not skew the final vote on this.
McWilliams is 2.
No, McWilliams,
Yeah, McWilliams is 2.
but McWilliams
Okay.
now is 1, because I took
You
it off.
yours off.
So it wouldn't skew it. And then if Commissioner Vaughn, I don't know what her 4th pick
Right.
was.
But for example, if I had 4, I might have put Andrade. It does skew it when you have options. But anyway, the point is that the answer is 3. I want to answer the question. It's 3.
Okay.
And the next, do y'all have any thoughts about that? Anybody want to make some just comments about Andrade Van de Putte and Associates? I know both of them personally.
I think it's a very impressive company. So I'm glad it got 3 votes from the
Yeah.
commissioners.
And again, they're not votes, but they were recommendations. If they had been votes, we truly need to table, because that was not the purpose of it.
I'll change
Yeah.
my recommendation.
But having said that, they are a very strong team. They are not a local team. One of the things that I want you to know is that I have had the opportunity to speak to our entire legislative delegation. And if I have heard it once, I have heard it 100 times, how important it is to have a local presence when you're having a legislative agenda. And in our case, we not only have a strong legislative agenda we're promoting as part of what Texas Association of Counties is promoting, but we have a strong legislative agenda as it applies to our boundary disputes, as it applies to disagreements with our neighbors and friends in San Pat, and as it applies to term limits that have been brought up, all kinds of interesting local bills, and being able to understand the local nuances is also a factor. The second one is, let me see what number that one would be. Shipton, 19, yeah, at the very bottom. Patricia Shipton is attachment number 19. You might remember that she served in Speaker Strauss's office. She hails from Laredo. She was recently here to moderate an event for Representative Hunter. And she has a one-page contract service agreement that she included and a scope as well. I do not know Patricia Shipton. So I can't speak to her background, only by reputation, which is a very good reputation. Are there any questions regarding the Shipton application or, I'm sorry, submission, not application, but submission? Okay, the last one is attachment number 2. I'm sorry, on Patricia Shipton, you will notice that there was a price attached to the contract services agreement. If that's of interest to you, it's item number 7 on the agreement. And then number 2 is Texana Public Affairs, a Joel Romo group. If you'll move to attachment number 2. Texana's principal is Joel Romo, who hails from Washington County. That is the county where Senator Lois Colhorst is also a state senator. Interesting district because it comes all the way down to Nueces County. We have the privilege of having 2 state senators represent us in Nueces County. Joel was the former chief of staff to Vilma Luna. And on his business references, it's notable that the Honorable Speaker of the House, Dennis Bonnen, is one of his business references. Commissioner Gonzalez, the conflict that has been raised as of this morning is that the particular proposal includes Berlanga Business Consultants, and Mr. Berlanga represents Drainage District Number 2, and they believe that the issue was raised of whether or not that constitutes a conflict. I would like the opportunity to vet that, because that makes a big, obviously, it's weighing in. There's an impact there. I do not believe there's a conflict. The conflict could only arise if there were an adversarial scenario. I don't see an adversarial scenario, specifically when they're working in Petronila right this second to help this county clear debris, called project number 14F. I'm familiar with that one, and there are many others. Having said that, I would love to hear discussion if there is anything different. There is no current legislation that has anything to do with a drainage district, nor am I aware of any that intends to be filed. I can say that with certainty, as I've just gotten off the phone with Senator Juan Chuy in Ahosa's office.
Well, I'd like to weigh in on that. I think there is a potential conflict, and I don't think this is any different than the conflict of the previous lobbyist that we had that we chose not to use because of the conflict that he represented San Pat. Now, drainage is on our legislative agenda, so I think there is a conflict. I do. It's potential to me, and I don't know where y'all are going to go with this. I think we need to pick someone. We've already put this off long enough, and everyone on here, unless you didn't know, Judge, but the rest of them knew that he represented that district. So he got 2, they put Texana, 2 of the commissioners recommended him out of us 5. So I think that says something in itself. So that's my stance on it. I like the idea of having a local, but I don't know that we have to have a local. These other companies are they were recommended. So I think it needs to be their choice if they want to add a local, and with that, they would be using the money that we're giving them that would add on to that cost. So I don't know if they would even want to do that. So I think we have to look at that too. As for me, I'm not going to support Texana because I do think it is a potential conflict.
Yeah. I don't think there's only a conflict. A conflict is a legal terminology. It's defined in law, And a conflict arises when there's an adversarial situation. We had an adversarial situation because of the boundary dispute, because of the pending litigation with San Pat, and because of the fact that they have posted a notice to add 2 port commissioners to San Patricio County. That is a true adversarial scenario and conflict, and the city of Corpus Christi has already decided that there will be no support for a drainage district, this legislative agenda. And so what's on our legislative agenda, Tyner, you could read it and clarify, is that we work towards an area plan, but not a district which would involve taxation. I'm unaware of anybody who wants to create a district. I know the senator's office has no interest in carrying that legislation. When your local senator doesn't want to carry a piece of legislation, it's dead on arrival.
Well, with due respect, I went to a couple of them. They didn't say they were for or against it, and that's why we put it on the legislative agenda. And one of the reasons I changed the verbiage was because of Hugo Berlanga. And there was an adversarial conflict when they came up here and told me they had pitchforks and a shovel in their trunk because they were upset because it was even on our agenda. So to me, that's adversarial. And so I don't know where we're going with that, and I have not heard that the city of Corpus Christi decided that there is not going to be no discussion, because the last time I talked to them, we were going to discuss it. We were going to at least discuss it. And that's why I brought it up in the first place, so that we could have a discussion that we have not had for many, many years, because we've got to solve it. So that was one of my biggest issues, is the drainage district. And I'm not saying that I want to have a drainage district, but we don't know what we want to have because we haven't discussed it, and we don't know what we can and can't do. So I just don't think you can serve 2 masters. And Hugo's great, nice man, but he's representing them. To me, that is a potential conflict. I mean, who do you choose? We don't know where we're going with it, Judge.
Well, we're all one county, so.
We are.
I
We're all
mean,
one
it's
county.
not like they're a different county, but I understand your concern. You voiced it articulately, and I understand it. And because of that, I would like to table it because it's too important of an issue. I think that my preference is to have a local representative coupled with somebody who has a really strong relationship with the Speaker's office, which Texana does, and somebody who really has a strong relationship with me, because I'm going to be able to use a local representative to further the goals that we all want, which is our legislative agenda. That's the good news, is that we're all trying to achieve the goals that we've stated on our agenda. And because this conflict arises, I would like to have the opportunity to see if there's any conflict legally at all, or furthermore, whether or not that person would step aside and choose. There might be an option for that, we can go forward only if we have the proper information.
Well, and I agree with that. And I submitted 2 local teams and 1 not local team, because I want somebody local that actually knows what's going on here in Nueces County also, and can support some of the things. And I know the drainage district works real closely with us, or with my precinct too, and we work hand in hand on a lot of the drainage issues. And I don't know there's any kind of a drainage bill that would affect Nueces County or both entities. But if there is a conflict I want to make sure that we don't have a conflict here, I want to make sure that if our legal counsel says, no, there's not a conflict, then I would support a local group. But, I just want to make sure there's no conflict of interest here.
Yeah.
This is my take on that.
Judge, I think, I'm sorry, were you done, Commissioner? I apologize.
Yeah, and I think the last one here is as before, the judge has always been the one that works real closely with that team. It's not really us that's working with that team, it's the judge, and the judge is in the front lines with the team. So, I want the judge to make sure she feels comfortable working wherever she needs to work with. And like I said, we're in the back and do the backup and do the support. But, but I just want to make sure at the end that there's no actually a conflict of interest here.
Judge, if I might, I don't think that Laura's going to come back with a legal conflict of interest, just like we've had many occasions where things have come before us where they're not legal conflicts of interest, but there's a perception or a question or so just because something's not a legal conflict of interest doesn't mean there's not a perception of or a potential for. That being said, one of the things that I had suggested that I'll throw out to the group again since we're tabling this is a combination. And what I asked Laura was, would it be something that we could potentially combine more than one of these groups? Now, personally, I thought overall the Andrade Van de Putte and Associates group was the strongest because of their depth of knowledge, because of their being on both sides of the aisle, and with the extra emphasis of Jim Keffer, who, because of our drainage being an issue of some sort, not a drainage district, but drainage, that he has a lot of potential. That being said, I also think Patricia Shipton fits all the boxes that you're looking for. She's not from Corpus Christi, but she's from Laredo, so she's from the region. So my thought was, would there be a potential way, and since we're going to table this anyway, I would just throw this out for people to think about going forward, of combining, let's say, a Texana and a Patricia Shipton, because if you did that, because I think Mr. Berlinga is extremely effective, and I do like that he's local. However, I also see the potential for a perception of, and that's a little worrisome, and respectfully, Judge, you didn't live through what we just lived through with the conflicts that this whole issue arose from, and so we're very sensitive to this because of what we just went through last session, and I'm not going to go into who did what or what did who or anything like that. It was a very difficult time in our lives to go through what we just went through, and so I think there's just a higher level of sensitivity on this, and because we didn't renew a contract of someone who did a phenomenal job for us, but for, we're not sure on this one issue, and we didn't pay him a whole lot, but we kind of nuked that person, if you will, because of the even potential for conflict without even bringing him in to say, okay, how would you handle this conflict? Would you step away from San Patricio County? Would you just represent us? We didn't even do that, which quite honestly, in retrospect, was extremely unfair to that group. And so, we all want to do what's right for the county. We all really are trying to give you, Judge, as much leash as you need to succeed in this. And that's thus my attempt here to throw something out on the table for everyone to think about. And they may not want to do it. There may not be enough money to go around. But at the end of the day, what we're supposed to do is put forth what's best for the county. And I think a combination of Shipton and Berlanga and Romo would be phenomenal, quite honestly. And if there was if there was an issue that came up that then Mr. Berlanga didn't feel comfortable working on for us, then you create a Chinese wall, and you still have Joel Romo and Patricia Shipton, which is strong as heck too. I think it's very important that we have a woman on our team, and a qualified woman. I think it's very, very important to have a qualified woman on our legislative team, especially with the sensitivity to that in our state right now, and we have to be sensitive to that. So somehow, in my opinion, if we can put together a team that has a Republican, a Democrat, minority representation, and a woman, that's a home run. Is that possible? I don't know.
Well, I love that you've checked all the boxes
I'm trying.
for every progressive in Nueces County. However, I'm unaware our legislative agenda has any women's rights issues on it at all. And so the real issue at hand is achieving our goals and prioritizing. And I can tell that we have a real disconnect on what the important legislative agenda items are. And I'm going to raise my hand and say that's my fault. I need to make certain that we address that, whether it's through a workshop or not, because as I hear what I'm hearing, there is a major gap in understanding what's at stake for our county legislatively this session, and we need to bring it back home in order to make sure that we can find the right team. Make no mistake, this is about seeing our legislation through, including local control, property tax reform, revenue caps, and with something we haven't gotten to, but you're going to hear a whole bunch about local provider participation funds for our hospital districts, Port Commission additions requested by Stan Pat, and so much more. Those are the top issues, nothing else. There is absolutely nothing regarding drainage, as sad as that is, at the legislative level. However, this court will make drainage a high priority. We have already discussed, as I've discussed with many of you, concepts, and we have a grant right now in for a drainage area plan, a collaborative plan with the city of Corpus Christi. I'm afraid you all are mixing apples with oranges, and we need to get on if we're going to be effective, we have to understand what our mission is. In order to accomplish our mission, we need to make certain that we're choosing the right advocates who can get our message to the right offices. It has nothing to do with being male or female. It has everything to do with understanding the issue, being an effective communicator, regardless of gender. And
Judge, I'm sure you don't mean to offend, but I have to.
I probably do, so go ahead.
Okay, and if
Let's
so.
see, I don't even know how I've offended, but I know
No,
that I was
it-
purposeful in my words.
Right, but to say that you believe this court has a gap in our legislative agenda.
If you think drainage is going to be dealt with at our local legislative delegation, yes, I do. I
Judge,
think there's a
could I-
major gap. There is no such legislation contemplated, period, end of story. Period.
Respectfully, Judge,
Who's going to carry that legislation? I just spoke with the senator's office. It's
Judge,
not happening.
God almighty. You know what, Judge, you've got an agenda, I'm going to let you do what you want to do, because you don't want to listen to what other people have to say.
Actually, I
am
do.
trying to throw out an olive branch to figure out how to make this work. You are insulting to the point of it's really frustrating, because I am trying to check boxes. And if you don't think it's important to have female representation to deal with some of those female legislators, then respectfully, I have to disagree with you. If this court has made drainage, not a drainage district, but drainage an issue. We don't know, as Commissioner Vaughn has said, what that means. We took off specifically drainage district because we don't want to go that way, but we need to be able to figure out if there are vehicles in this state that will provide us the opportunity to get some sort of funding for our drainage problems that don't include a drainage district. So yes, drainage was made a legislative priority of this court, of which I believe you voted on and supported. And so nobody's talking about drainage district legislation here. That's not, well, nobody has said that up here except you. We have said drainage very specifically because we do not want to get into an adverse situation with those people, because we think we can work with them to come up with a solution. But we don't know what that is until we go down the path to see what those opportunities are. So I'm sorry, but it's really hard to sit and listen to you intentionally seem to insult the court because you think we don't understand what's going on. And we've been here for a long time trying to deal with things the best we can. And
I think you've been heard, and I think you're misinterpreting.
and that's why I
Sorry
said,
that you feel that way.
No, that's why I was saying maybe that's not what you meant. That's why I was asking if
Well,
that's not
I
what.
interpreted it the same way. I was really insulted by those comments, and because we do know what the agenda is. Drainage was on the agenda. It may not be the top priority for some, but it was on the agenda. What happens to it, we do not know, but we are aware of the other things that are on the agenda as well. So that, I just feel like you were talking down to us right then.
Well, that's not the intention. The intention is to prioritize our legislative agenda. You have raised an issue, and that's why I've asked for it to be tabled, because it's a very serious issue, and it needs to be discussed, further. But I was not here at the last court, as you so aptly reminded me, and it was that court that allowed a particular legislative bill to be passed that has cost this county millions of dollars. And so we will make sure that we have the right advocacy and the right agenda and the right team going forward. But make no mistake, we're all on the same team. Our legislative agenda is very clear, but it had nothing to do with the types of taxing authorities that would put or raise a conflict. You have two drainage districts, and their purpose in its entirety is to promote drainage. That doesn't make them adversarial for funding. It only makes them adversarial if you're creating a district. That was the point that I was making. If I did not articulate that clearly, then that's my fault. But that is the point. The point is that everybody is for funding. I'm sure Drainage District Number 4 in your precinct, Commissioner Chesney, would be very excited about opportunities for state funding, as we all would. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about why you would be in an adversarial context, and that would have to do with whether or not a district would be created, not whether or not we could get funding for drainage. That's a good thing, and we all want to promote that. So,
Judge, I'd like to chime in. I know everyone's had a chance at, so I think, as we come here today, we want this all finalized, and so I do too. I've had concerns. I think I think we heard all of us clearly state at last week's meeting before we called this special meeting was that we wanted to ensure that there were no conflicts. Now, conflict doesn't mean, I agree, that there's adversary, but conflict does mean is, can you support my agenda 100%? And so if you're on a contract with another entity, by nature, that's going to put you at less than 100%. I don't think there's any entity out here that's a different elected or appointed body that will have 100% support. There's issues with cities and TML agenda that are in conflict to counties and TAC. Now we may agree on 99.9% of the stuff, but there's still not totality. It's still not 100%. Same thing with school boards, school districts. So I think that's what we were looking for, is to ensure, to put out any doubt that there was a conflict. Because you mentioned, it happened under the previous court, and we didn't know until the issue had already happened. There was fingers pointed at our state senator. There was fingers pointed at our previous county judge. There was fingers pointed at our own government affairs liaison here in Nueces County. There's fingers pointed at our previous lobbyists. That's why we're here where we're at today, because we had 4 different entities or people pointing fingers at each other. Someone missed the ball. And so that's what we're saying today. That's why we got here today, is because we felt we wanted to make sure. Never said there's anything criminal or any doubt about Mr. Finley's work. But if you're working for one entity, and if there's even a slightest opportunity that could be missed, then that's a concern that we have to then reply to the people of Nueces County. How or why did that fail? So that's why we're here today. So I agree. We need to set our priorities. I'm glad to hear that you're going to be putting together a retreat or prioritizing our agendas, because I think that is definitely needed, and we have not had that previously. We do need to achieve our goals and recognize what our goals are. On the state issues you mentioned, local control, property tax, revenue caps, those are issues that we vote on. We have voted on in the past in resolutions for the 2017 agenda, and we will do that again in connection with Urban Counties Association and Texas Association of Counties. You mentioned hospital and port issues that needs to be part of our legislative agenda. I agree. And if you look at who our finalists are, there are conflicts. If you go to the state's ethics website, there are conflicts. Not that these organizations are going to be anti-Nueces County, because these organizations are of and with Nueces County. But if there's any issues that they have and that we may have that may be in conflict, that's, I think, where the issue comes up. Now, it may not. It may not. And as far as legislation filed, there hasn't been filed, but there's been numerous discussions I've had with Senator Hinojosa 3 times, 2 times just last year in 2018, in the early part of 2018, again in the summer, and then again in Austin earlier this month. So we've been talking about what can we do, what is the next step. And I think we all agree it's going to take 2 or maybe even 3 terms to get us to some sort of solution there. But that definitely is a part of our legislative package. So to me, what this all comes down to, once again, is what are the main issues? And to me, there's access to state leadership. We took a hit with Representative Hunter losing his calendar chair. That had a lot of ability to put stops on legislation that was going to hurt our county or hurt the area, and so he did that well. Unfortunately, that changed. So we need other connections along with our local delegation to help us connect with Austin. I don't necessarily have those connections. I'm sure some here on the court do. But that's, to me, what I'm looking for in a lobbyist is who are they connected to? And you did a great job in reminding us that, Mr. Romo has put the speaker on as a reference list. I want to make sure, how connected are these people? Maybe we do ask, for a few days to come back in another meeting and finalize this. But how well are these individuals connected with the people that they say? Not that they're going to fudge on that, but it's maybe someone closer to the speaker than others, or someone closer to the lieutenant governor or the governor than others. We need to verify that. We need to look into the issue of conflict of interest. If we went with a joint team, I would not have an issue with that. But if we need to hit the brakes and verify, I think then that's important. But like I said, I was doing homework once we found out, like the public did, as I was watching the meeting, most of the meeting online for the committee meeting earlier this morning. I immediately started picking out the names out of the lobbying database that is part of the Texas Ethics Commission. And so looking at each individual, each by name, each by the 2018 session and 19 session, those are the two I could find online. And so I began looking at the groups to see if there was any conflicts. And so that's maybe what we need to look at, to verify. There are some alleged conflicts for some of the applicants on here that they're not listed. They're not listed as doing lobbying work. Is there another conflict? Is there maybe just a consultant type contract that's in place that maybe could be perceived as a conflict? But there are some that have direct ties to local entities, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But like I said, could we or do we get into a conflict at some point? We could. Krista Spahn, they're our partner. They do great work in this community, but we still have an issue that we have to deal with them and negotiating and everything, and we may not agree 100% of the time. So that to me is a conflict. Port of Corpus Christi, I think we support them on almost everything, but could there be some nuances that are different? Very well could be. So those are listed entities that are listed in the lobbying website when you go and look for it. So, and that's what I briefly had in the 30 minutes once the committee kind of decided to move forward on those three groups. So that's all the time that I had to look up. But if we need to pump the brakes on this and wait, I would suggest we do it no later than Friday. I don't think that we could or should wait any longer. I think that would maybe give us enough time now that three have been selected to move forward. But if there is a push or a motion to combine two firms to work jointly together, I don't know how that works. I don't know if other entities do that. But if that is a way that we can all feel collectively that is a better approach and meets some of our concerns and needs, I would not have a problem moving forward with that as well. So just wanted to share my thoughts as we move forward on this. But I guess I'll wait to hear what you have to say, Judge, or anyone else.
Thank you for your comments. I'm going to go back through one last time. Commissioner Chesney, do you have any further comments? Commissioner Gonzalez, any comments at this time? Commissioner Vaughn?
No.
Commissioner Modas, just to round it up, you're certainly welcome to add. Okay, after much discussion and to my chagrin, acrimony, that's certainly not what any commission meeting, commissioners' court meeting is desiring, but I do think that it illustrates the point that this is of the utmost importance, and there is a lot at stake and a lot of important legislative agenda discussion that needs to be had as we go through the following months. So having said that, and having narrowed it down through the selection committee to three groups, I would like to entertain a motion that we table. I have not had the opportunity to look to Friday. Tyner, I don't know if that's even available to consider.
With 72 hours' notice, I would need to post the meeting. I could get it at noon, or I could do 1 p.m., 1:30 p.m.
1:30?
1:30.
Okay.
Fine with me if that's okay with everybody else.
Would everyone like a small chance to check your calendar and see if that was,
I'm good.
you're good?
I've got
Ms.
mine, yes,
Vaughn,
ma'am.
You're good. Modest, John? Commissioner.
I think that's good.
Okay, so it seems that we have consensus on a Friday posting possibly to get us to a 1:30 meeting?
1:30 meeting, I'll essentially reproduce this identical agenda for Friday.
Okay, for the record and for, I know you're taking notes and I almost feel for you on those notes, but let me kind of try to get Robert's rules right, which is a motion to table this matter, and Commissioner Gonzalez has seconded.
I think you would table it to a time specific, Judge, would be the
Well,
motion.
to table, sorry, to the Friday at 1:30, as was noted.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and,
Second, I'm sorry, was that your
We
I
got a
apologize.
second.
Second, or, yes,
No,
to
and
Friday
then-
at 1:30, is that what we said?
right.
Okay.
Okay, and do we need to get a formal,
Need a vote.
so we'll go ahead and get Commissioner Gonzalez did, and now we'll vote. You ready?
vote.
Okay, and now all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed, same sign. And that table does carry till Friday at 1:30 until we meet again. And there is no other further business on our agenda. Is that correct?
That's correct.
There's no need for executive notice. Oh, my goodness, yes.
There is an adjournment in memory that I just.
Okay, okay, absolutely. If y'all will just stay here with me for just a minute or two longer.
I'm sorry, Judge, can we make sure that on Friday's agenda that there is a posted executive session item, for that item, in case that we need to go, if there's anything that comes up? We're doing this transparently, and so that's why it's kind of, I don't want to say messy, but that's why you're hearing so many different opinions. And not that we're going to go back there and make a decision, but if there's information that we need to come up with, I want to be sensitive to people whose livelihood this is, that we wouldn't want to drag anyone through the mud to say so-and-so is not doing a good job, or that they may have a conflict or what have you. That's why I was careful, and I didn't want to mention names or anything, but I would want to be able to have that if there's information that needs to be delivered to us in a sensitive manner. Is that possible?
Well, it's on this particular, you can always discuss legal matters in executive session. So the answer is there's always an opportunity to go into executive
Yeah,
session.
we do have to specifically notice it.
You do want to
So, yeah,
Okay.
we can discuss. I pretty much can tell.
And Judge, that, just so you know, that's another point of contention with Laura and myself, because I think the fact that we have it on the agenda and it always says we can go into executive session, I think that's sufficient, but she doesn't, and so we have to kind of follow her lead. So she's saying we have to put it on specifically, even though the language on there says we can always go into executive session about anything posted on there. But that's one of those things that, and Laura and I very rarely disagree, for the record,
Okay,
too.
well,
That's just one of them, so.
If you feel the need, go ahead, and it's been requested, and I think it's a reasonable request.
I'll post it.
Would you like to make a motion to have it included, Commissioner Modis?
Need to, or is it?
No, you don't need to.
Okay, all right, so then you've heard. Before we adjourn, there is an adjournment in memory request, and I'd like to read it, and of course, I would always ask if you want to add, but Miss Deanna Birch passed away Sunday, January 27th. She was the sister of former County Judge Richard Borchard, and our family, and our thoughts and prayers go out to their family on that very big loss. I believe she was only 66 or 67 is what I remember reading.
Judge, I do have one other one, if that's
Yes.
all right. I didn't know we were doing that today. I appreciate that. Craig Marr, Maurer. He was a classmate of mine at Ray High School, and unfortunately had an unfortunate accident, fell, and according to what I've read on Facebook, hit his head, and it's an unfortunate demise at a very early age as well. So condolences to that family as well.
Thank you. Are there any others at this time? If not, I'll move for a motion to adjourn. And a second.
Second.
And as my friend Charlie Zahn would say, that's non-debatable. We're adjourned.